Hello! At Brains and Beards, we've been hard at work in the past 2 months working on a new developer tool. Today, I would like to show it to you. As it's a developer tool, the easiest way to show its capabilities and what it's for is with a practical example. And I'm gonna start with walking you through a mobile application that we're gonna use in this example. Here's a simple application that shows different Marvel comic characters. You can scroll through a list and see each character's details. One of the problems when working on an application like this is that you cannot really do it offline. As you can see, I'm not in an office, but I would still like to be able to work on it comfortably. Of course, not many people are in a situation like me. Personally, I'm both extremely unlucky with my internet connections, and I'm also on a remote beach somewhere in Sicily. Of course, you don't have to be in a situation like me to be able to appreciate the benefits of being able to work even when being offline. Because we do it all the time. We work on planes, we work on trains, we work at our parents' houses over the holidays. We can even go offline in our own home if the neighbor chooses the wrong cable to cut during their home renovations. Some people choose to work when offline just to avoid the distractions. Here I have a freshly started instance of Mimic. I can simply create a new project and provide API forwarding options that will allow Mimic to get all the API data automatically, just by using the application in a normal way. Let's set those up. Now, when I have my project configured, I'll switch to my application and make it use Mimic's mocking server instead of the normal API backend. All the requests will be forwarded as I've configured it already in my project. Now, after reloading the application, I can click through it like I would use it normally. You can see there is no difference how the application was working before the change and now. But when we switch back to Mimic, we can see it collected some API endpoint data. You can use the mock button to configure those endpoints automatically. Of course, if we want, we can go into details and change anything we want, like changing the HTTP status code or adding a custom delay to the response. However, what we'll do instead is add a small plot twist into the bio of one of the characters. Now we can switch back to the application. As you can see, the changes we made in Mimic are visible straight away, and one of our characters got a new and surprising background. So, as you see, we went through all this trouble and we ended up working exactly the same way as it used to before. Was it worth it? Well, maybe. Fortunately, Mimic's usefulness doesn't end there. When working on a mobile application, we have to handle a lot of edge cases. What happens if this particular list is empty? What happens if it has hundreds of records? What happens if we get some rare error? Usually, it means that we have to simulate those edge cases on the backend by, I don't know, adding or removing records from the database, or writing some custom code that will emulate a response. With Mimic, it's much easier. We can just edit the response that it's gonna give us. Let me show you how we can do just that. Of course, there's a lot of different things we could do with a tool like that. I'll just focus on showing you one of the possibilities. Let's see how our application behaves when API errors come up. It's a common issue that developers focus on the happy path and sometimes errors are not handled properly. Let's simulate that the API returns a 404 status code with some error message. Sometimes applications that expect the API to return valid JSON break when served something else. Let's set up a message that is not parsable as JSON to see what happens. It looks like it went well, and we can see that this error case is handled smoothly in our app. Of course, the other endpoints still work the way we set them up before. Great! As you can see, we built Mimic to help us work in two different ways. On one hand, we can keep working comfortably even when we're offline. On the other hand, which I think is the greatest strength of Mimic, is being able to easily work with APIs that we do not control. We can emulate different responses, custom errors. We can even create endpoints that have not been implemented yet. All of it without having to wait for any changes on the backend side. We also have some tricks for power users that, for example, could use Mimic as their backend when running tests on CI servers. But honestly, this video is getting a little bit too long already, so you will have to discover all of yourself. How would you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. I invite you to go to brains.zone/mimic, where you can subscribe to our closed beta testing group. We'd love to hear your feedback before we release the app publicly. Thank you for your time. Of course, you can also find the link in the video description.